For the crazy fools, and I'm including myself, that are still dreaming about Kefren Turam coming to Juve in January or next summer, I think it's time to give up. Why? Because there is a breaking news. Kefren Turam has been called up with the French national team to replace Edouard Camavinga, and we know it when they are there. With the French national team, they have even more exposure, even more than with Nice, that is doing a fantastic Ligue 1, and I believe that the price tags will go super high, so it's time to say, I think, goodbye to Kefren Turam. Ciao Juventini of the world, my name is Giuseppe, welcome back on the channel. I hope you're all doing well, and you're probably thinking by yourself, what will Beppe speak about in today's video? It's international break, there are no games of clubs, blah 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 blah, there are not even players that are remaining in the Continassa. Well, don't worry, because I found something, and if you want to know what, if you want to discover what I will speak about, please put maximum of like, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because today I want to start, not to continue all video with, but I want to start speaking about a fantasy. No, I'm not speaking about fantasy league, but I want to speak about the fantasy of some people to change a bit the narrative and going towards what they want to share. And I know that some people here on the channel are not always agreeing when I'm speaking about that, because they are telling me, Beppe, it's best to ignore the anti-Juve world, which I kind of understand, but when I created the channel, that was one of the points that I really wanted to expose. Not to give more exposure than they have, but just to expose. Why? Because we know it. I created a channel for Juventini that unfortunately are not able to speak Italian. Some translation on internet are a bit dubious, not all of the things are there, and then I see even Juventini that are thinking that what they are reading online is correct, or they don't go and have not the possibility to deep dive into the news by themselves. So that's why I really want to speak about it. I want to start with something that I saw yesterday on social media. It was a post from Raffaele Caruso that is speaking about the situation of injuries, specifically the one of Juventus, because it's going with Locatelli non prenderà parte alla prossima sfida della nazionale azzurra. Locatelli will not take part of the next games of the national team of Italy because of an injury. He will remain in Torino, which is totally correct. Well, remain in Torino, no, because he will come back to Torino because he was there present with the national team. He did some tests, and the tests are saying that he's not able to play. But then he's continuing giving his opinion, which is starting to be really interesting, because he's going towards una prassi ormai, something that started to be usual now, not referring to players that are leaving the Italian national team, but referring to Juventini that are leaving Italian national team, going back to Federico Chiesa. Then he continues, secondo me il 26 novembre sarà regolarmente in campo. According to me, the 26th of November, he will be on the pitch for that big game, Juve-Inter, which I also hope, of course. At the moment, we can't say he will play or he will not play, even if the rumors are saying that there are more chances that he will not play than he will play. Anyway, you're saying, Beppe, it's his right to have his own opinion. He's a supporter, probably Inter, we are not sure, that is giving his opinion on social media. That's the goal of social media, and until there I think it's correct. But yesterday evening we had the news that Bastoni is also leaving the Italian national team. So I'm expecting that Raffaele Caruso is again using the thing, Bastoni is leaving, something usual now, they are concentrating focus on Juve Inter, and he will be on the pitch on the 26th of November. And no, because what do we read? La sosta nazionale inizia nei peggiori dei modi. The international break is starting in the worst possible way. Muscular fatigue for Bastoni, the conditions has to be monitored. There is a big difference between one and the other. So, not that I know personally Raffaele Caruso, but I'm thinking probably he's a supporter of Inter. And of course, that supporters of Inter, they are linking towards their team, defending their team, and having some suspicions about the anti. Of course, I understand it. And that's why I was curious. I click on his profile. What do I see? Internews.it, a huge one. Actually, Internews.it, it's a big one, because now you understand that it's someone is supporting the Nerazzurri. But then you're looking, and he's written giornalista. He's a journalist that is working for Quinto Potere 5, for FC Internews.it, ex Di Marzio, ex Passione Inter. Now I'm thinking, if you're a supporter, you have the right to say whatever you want to. If you're a journalist, you should be, in a way, a bit more partial, even if you're a journalist for a certain paper. And now you will tell me, Beppe, but you're doing a bit the same sometimes, taking more the defense of Juve than when they are players from the other team, which I say, I agree. Let's forget about that. Let's agree that it's out of passion more than about journalism. What I don't agree with, and that's the second story that is much bigger than that, it's when journalists or owners of certain papers are using their papers to sell their narrative, to change their narrative and to sell their narrative. And what am I speaking about? About Gazzetta dello Sport, that we know it's more a linked interpage than a general one, even if Gazzetta dello Sport is the #1 Italian page that is sold all over the world. In some countries, it's only the only paper that is sold and the only paper that Juventini, Interista, Milanista, Romanisti, all the calcio fans are able to read and to buy in their local stores. Well, they're going towards another narrative, because even if it's an interpage, kind of, it's owned by the president of Torino. Urbano Cairo is the owner of Torino and Gazzetta dello Sport. And we know it, in the last moments, Torino is not doing that well, and there are already a few games that Torino is complaining about some mistakes against them from the referee. So today they are taking the luxury to take 2 pages in Gazzetta dello Sport to speak about the fact that the referees are doing too many mistakes. And until there, I agree. It's true that since the beginning of the year, and not only this year, but since a few seasons, we see more and more mistakes. VAR should have cancelled the mistakes about the referees. No, on top of that, they are doing even more. Even when they are going to the monitor, to the VAR monitor, to check something, they are still able to do some mistakes. So I'm really curious about that article. I go and read, and what is the first number that I see? 230. What are 230? The mistakes against Torino since the last, let's say, 3.5 seasons, since the beginning of season 2021. Crazy, 230. That's more than 1 mistake per game. Incredible. Of course, I'm a Juventino, so I wanted to go and check what about Juve. They are saying for Juve, there are actually 103 mistakes against Juve. But then I'm adding up the green numbers, the one that are in favor of Juve, and you see that, of course, Juve is the one apparently according to Urbano Cairo, is the one that is benefiting the most mistakes. So for them, the mistakes that are actually in benefit of Juve. 37 the first season in 2021, 21-22, 42 mistakes in favor of Juventus. Last season, 36 equal to Inter. This year, after 12 games, 15 games. So I need to understand which 15 mistakes were in benefit of Juve. I still need to understand it because I don't see them. Even if my memory is not always 100%, I need to understand it. So I was reading the article, and what is the reference points, what is the source that they are taking to say if a mistake was in favor, not in favor. If it was a mistake, La Moviola della Gazzetta, the referee review, so the reports written by the journalist of Gazzetta dello Sport. You know that after every single match, they go with a small article, La Moviola, the review, the report, like a bit the rating of the referee, saying if it was a mistake or not. That's what they are taking as their source, their own source of judging, the source that is made by the owner of Torino. And that's where you are going towards 230 mistakes in benefit or against Torino, 130 mistakes against or in favor of Juve. I'm sorry. You understand what I wanted to say. Mamma mia. What a disaster. Anyway, this is not the only thing that I wanted to speak about in today's video, because I wanted to speak about other things. But anyway, you see that it's annoying. It is totally annoying. You see, you have some fans, you have some journalists, and then you have even some papers. They are taking the things that they want to and they are changing it. And all of the time, and that's the annoying part, it's in a way or in another against Juventus. Anyway, what is against Juventus? It's also the injury at the moment. Why? Because this morning, breaking news, Fabio Miretti had to leave the national team of the under-21 Azzurri to come back to La Continassa. Why? Because he's still suffering from lombalgia. It's not the first player that is suffering from lombalgia, and it starts to be annoying. It's not an injury that he did with the Azzurrini, but it's something that he felt in the pre-game of Juve Cagliari. Well, he stayed there for 66 minutes on the field, so that means that against Cagliari we were playing with 1, Locatelli that had a fractured rib, and another one that was feeling really a lot of pain in the low of his back. Total disaster. And that's probably also why our midfield against Cagliari was not on top. Now, the problem is not the Juve Cagliari, because we won that game, luckily, thanks to the goals of Bremer and Rugani, but the big question mark is who will be there against Inter in the big game of the 26th of November. So I went to make a point of the injuries. Locatelli at the moment is still feeling a lot of pain, is still resting, but it's more no than yes that he will be able to recuperate against Inter, something that we can't tell you now with a lot of certainties, but that's an annoying part. Miretti, lombalgia, back pain. We know how much Dusan Vlahovic was suffering from it and is sometimes still suffering from it, so we don't know about Miretti. According to me, it's more a yes than a no. I think that he can continue to play with it, even if he will probably not go with world-class performances. Danilo, no, already said by Mr. Max Allegri. Huijsen, the same pain, lombalgia, and it's already the third player that is suffering from low back pain. I don't know what they are doing in fitness at Juve. Maybe, the weight that they are taking and to train are maybe a bit too heavy for them. I don't know, but pay attention for that. Well, Wea, good news partially. This week he will not be able to train with the team, but next team he should reintegrate the team, so he will have a few days to be ready. Let's see if he will be able to start or not. Alexandro is already starting partially to train with the team. In a way good, because if Dean Huijsen is not able to make it, at least we have one player on the bench if there is a problem with Gatti, with Rugani or with Bremer, that are the undubious starter of that big game, the Derby d'Italia. Cambiaso, swollen ankle, looks like he's doing better, much better, and it looks like he has some chances to make his debut in one of the two games with the Azzurri. Moiskin is doing okay. Also there, he was not able to take part of the full training session of day one in national team. He's doing much better. Locatelli, Miretti, he will tell me, Beppe, but we have enough midfielders. But if on top of that, you remember, because I will still remind it until the Mercato of January, that we have Fagioli and Pogba out, it's 4 midfielders that we are missing. So I went a bit with fantasy to check who could potentially play at the moment as we speak, because international break is still long. Against Inter, well, Szczesny into the goal without any doubt. Rugani, Bremer, Gatti are the one that should start, and luckily Gatti had no yellow card against Cagliari. Then in the middle, you can go towards what the papers are pushing at the moment, the first big start of Nicolussi in Serie A with the shirt of the Bianconeri. So Nicolussi replacing Locatelli as a regista, Rabiot on his spot, McKennie on his spot, with Cambiaso on the right side, Kostic on the left, Chiesa and Vlahovic on top. Cambiaso didn't play really well against Cagliari. We know it, that he always tried to go towards his left foot, but at the moment we have nobody, except if Wea is recuperating really well. Then we could potentially see a Wea on the right with the remaining part of the team that is remaining the same, but not Nicolussi, but Rabiot in that regista role with Cambiaso on the left. Why Rabiot? Because I remember a few weeks ago in press conference there was Max Allegri that said if Locatelli is not there, Rabiot could potentially take that spot. So to have a more physical midfield and without launching Nicolussi for his big game against Inter the first time, we could potentially go towards that lineup. You probably noticed that I spoke about Dusan Vlahovic starter next to Chiesa. At the moment we don't know, but that should be normal if they are healthy. Yesterday I watched, in a way, the game against Belgium against Serbia. There were Vlahovic that started the game. To be honest, I know that a lot of people are still thinking it's because of Max Allegri that Dusan Vlahovic is not playing. Yesterday there was no Max Allegri with Serbia. He didn't do a really great game. The other Juventini that was on the field from the second half was Kostic. He entered and he changed the game for Serbia. At the end, they lost 1-0 with a goal at the second minute of Carrasco, but he entered and he did some beautiful, fantastic crosses and assists into the box that the Serbian players were not able to score. If you want to speak about some targets of Juve, Samardzic, anonymous game, not wow. He didn't impress me. On the other side, I was really impressed by Arthur Vermeeren. You know, that 18 years old kid that is monitored by Juve, that is playing at Antwerp. Mamma mia. Defensively, he needs to grow. He needs a coach probably like Max Allegri. But the vision, the passes, mamma mia, what a beautiful player. I was really happy to see that game. Not only at Juve, there are injuries. Also at Inter, I already told you about Bastoni. Well, looks like Hakan Çalhanoğlu yesterday was not able to take part of the Turkish national team training because he had some problem with breathing, an infection, and he was not able to breathe. So also Çalhanoğlu, but I believe that he will be there on the field. We have to monitor it. But if there are some injuries for Juve, there are also injuries for Inter. Let's hope that we will find 22 players to play that game. I already told you about Dusan Vlahovic. I wanted to go towards Mercato now. Not that much in detail, but still some big names and some big things that could happen in the winter, because Tuttosport is speaking about Iling Jr. that could potentially bring you the ball. Why are they saying that? Because we know it, we already spoke about it. Tottenham is really interesting in the player, about our English player. They need some players to reinforce their team. They just lost the first spot in Premier League. They are looking to reinforce themselves. Juventus is asking between 15 and 20 million euro. I tell you that I believe that Iling Jr. is worth more than 20 million euro, especially if you remember that Casadei, a player from Inter, was sold to Chelsea for 20 million euro, and he didn't even play with the first team. He has been loaned out 2 seasons in a row. Well, Iling Jr., yes, is worth more, but at the moment we don't see him. We were not able to see him. We are not sure on the field with fact that is more than 20 million euro. And that's why Juventus is thinking about it. There are no spots for him. There is no space for him. There is no room for our English player because we are playing that 3-5-2 and defensively is lacking a bit. Well, going to Tottenham, he could bring us 20 million euro, and that money could be potentially reinvested in a role that we are really needing, especially if we're speaking about our midfield. And De Paul is a player that could reinforce Juventus immediately, because it's a player that wants to go again in a starting spot in the 11. A player that wants to come back to Italy, a player that has experience playing in Serie A because he was there, a really fantastic player at Udinese, and at Atletico Madrid he's not a regular starter. It's a one that won the World Cup with Argentina. It's a player that has also some fantasy, muscles, athleticism and fantasy. A guy that can not only score goals but also find you that decisive pass that Juventus is lacking a bit when we are in opposition halves. Then there's also speaking about Colpani, a duel, a battle between Inter and Juve for Colpani. Yesterday I watched a bit that live of the national Italian team where there was Andrea Cambiaso and Andrea Colpani. Colpani was clearly a big fan of Inter. He didn't say it, but speaking about Bastoni, that is a really great friend and so on and so on. I think that at the end, attenzione, Colpani is a bit a nerazzurro in heart. I can't guarantee you that, but attenzione, I don't know. Then there is always, of course, Samardzic that has been monitored, and probably yesterday the Juventus scouts were checking that game, Serbia-Juve. There is still another player that is monitored. We spoke about him yesterday, and he will be observed again by Juventus scouts in Croatia, Armenia. We are speaking about Edouard Sperzian. Who is Edouard Sperzian? Is the player that we spoke about yesterday in detail. So if you didn't yet, please go. Beautiful player. That's what I can guarantee you. Gazzetta dello Sport is speaking about another scandal, or no, actually the same scandal, the one of gambling, because apparently there is Florenzi under investigation. He's not receiving the first page. Why? Because they are now speaking about Sinner, the tennisman that is doing fantastically well in Torino, and also about the national team that is not playing today, but tomorrow. So the big page are going for them and not for Florenzi. I remember that when it was Fagioli, he went huge with a fantastic, beautiful portrait graphic of Fagioli on the first pages. Anyway, this is what it is. Corriere dello Sport is focusing on praising Inter with Super Simone Inzaghi, and they are speaking about Lautaro, Çalhanoğlu, and Di Marco that are the best at the moment of Serie A, while Allegri can count on Danilo and Bremer. Well, counting on Danilo not that much. As we spoke, he will not be there for Juve Inter. That was it for me for my video today. I hope you enjoyed. Maximum of like if you didn't yet. Please subscribe to the channel. Grazie, forza Juve.